Hi, Mrs. Debbie here again, and I have another story for you. This one is a Native American legend, and the Native Americans lived in the Pacific Northwest on the Pacific coast of Washington and Oregon. And they made up stories and art about different animals and their personalities. On the totem poles that the Native Americans made, they would carve a bear, a whale, a raven, and each one represented the personality of the family or the village where you saw the totem. Well, the raven, and I have to read a little bit of this. The raven was known as a bird with magical powers. He was very cunning, that means kind of sneaky, and greedy, but brave. And he liked to trick people. He kind of was a mischief maker, but he became a hero to the Native American people. And so he was one of the important animal spirits that they would put on the totem pole. They carved his image on boxes and jewelry and weavings and baskets, and they wrote about him. This story is about Raven, a trickster tale from the Pacific Northwest, and it was written by Gerald McDermott. Now you might see something that looks like a medal down here. This book won the Caldecott Honor Book, and those are top books to read. You might want to take a look. And the special thing about this is it's a scholastic book, and I bet your schools may have scholastic book fairs. If they do and you like this book, you should take a look and see if they have it. Okay, well, we're going to start reading about Raven, and I'm afraid I can't show you the pictures while I read because the book's too big. Raven came. All the world was in darkness. The sky above was in darkness. The waters below were in darkness. Men and women lived in the dark and cold. Raven was sad for them. He said, "I will search for light." There's the darkness. Oops. I think the sun from my window just made the darkness light. Raven flew across valleys and across mountains. He flew along the rivers and over lakes. There was darkness all around. Then he saw a bit of light far away. He flew and came closer to the light. The light was at the edge of the water. So there you can see him flying, and here you can see the light at the edge. The light came from the house of the Sky Chief, and it was shining. Raven perched high in a pine tree on the shore. Raven watched. Let's see. It's a little difficult here, so you can see. He saw a beautiful young girl emerge from the shining house and go to the edge of the water. She was the Sky Chief's daughter. She knelt and drank some water from a woven basket. So there's Raven perched on the pine tree looking at the beautiful girl. Raven changed himself into a pine needle. He fell down from the tree and floated on the water. When the girl drank again, she swallowed the pine needle. Now what do you think's going to happen? Something's got to happen if you swallow a pine needle that's really the raven. Think about it. We'll find out. Okay, so there he is as the pine needle floating down. And there's the girl drinking the water. And you see right by her lips, the pine needle's about to go into her mouth. After a time, the girl gave birth to a child. The child was small and dark with shiny black hair and tiny black eyes. Who do you think the child was? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Let's see. Isn't she pretty? It was Raven. Raven had been reborn as a boy child. The Sky Chief was delighted with his daughter's child. He called him grandchild. He played with the boy and carved toys for him. He invited the elders to come and see the curious, wonderful child. There he is. Kind of looks like Raven, huh? And there's the Sky Chief. Now, if you look at his hat, and you see kind of like a tube coming out at the top of the hat, that hat is called a potlatch hat. And potlatches are something that families give, and it's like a big party. And people come over where they live, and the Northwest Indians live in what they call a long house. It's like a big long cabin. And they come over, they eat, they play, and that tube that's on top of the hat there, I don't know if they show, is in parts. And if it's just a flat hat, that means that person hasn't given any potlatches. But then, right here, that's 1, and then 2, and then 3. Sometimes the hat goes way up. So it's kind of an honor or almost like a bragging hat. Look at me, I gave these many potlatches. The elders gathered in the shining house with the Sky Chief and his daughter. They watched Ravenchild crawl around the floor of the lodge. He pretended to be playing. All the time, he was trying to find where the light was hidden. He saw a box in the corner of the lodge. Uh-oh. What do you think he's going to do? Remember, he's kind of a trickster. The box was large. It was carved and painted with many colors. The box was bright. It glowed. Ravenchild said, "Gaga." There you can see him reaching for it, saying, "Gaga." "What do you want?" asked his mother. Ravenchild said, "Gaga." He began to cry. "What does the child want?" asked what does the child want? asked the elders. Ravenchild said, "Gaga." He cried and cried. "My grandchild wants the box," said the Sky Chief. There they are. The young woman placed the box in front of Ravenchild, but he continued to cry. She took the lid off the box. Inside was a smaller box. She took the lid off that box. Inside was a smaller box. Have you ever done something like that? Somebody gave you a present and there's a big box and a middle box and a smaller box and a smaller box. So there he is, all upset. And there she is taking out the boxes. And you can see the light in there. His mother took the lid off that box, and light poured out of it. Light flooded the room. Inside the box was a shining ball, blazing with light. What do you think the ball was? It was the sun. "Give him the ball," said Sky Chief. Okay, if you were telling this story, what might you have happen next? Think about it for a minute. What do you think that little boy's going to do? Remember, he's Raven as a little boy. Think about it and see if you're thinking about the same thing as the author does. His mother gave Ravenchild the ball. Ravenchild stopped crying. He began to play with it. He rolled it around the floor of the lodge. Ga, ga. Then he changed into a bird. Ha ha! He became Raven once again. Caw, caw. So here you see the boy playing with the ball. And here you see him as he starts to turn and become Raven. Sky Chief, his daughter, and the elders looked in on amazement. Raven plucked up the ball of light in his beak, flew through the smoke hole of the lodge, and disappeared into the dark sky. There he goes. Did you have something like that happen in the story you were thinking about? Is it the same as the author's, or did you change it a little bit? Raven flew over the valleys and mountains. He flew along the rivers and the lakes. Raven threw the sun high into the sky, and it stayed there. This is how Raven stole the sun and gave it to all the people. See if I can get the whole book in there, because it's a beautiful, beautiful picture. There he goes, up to the sun. And why do the people always feed Raven? To thank him for bringing them light. Well, his magic wasn't bad, was it? It lit up the world. I hope you like this story. The Northwest Indians have lots of great stories, some on raven, some about the whale, some about the bear. If you're interested in the stories of the Native Americans, take a look. Maybe you'll find some other books like this. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again.